Welcome back to Patriot Repairs. Today we're going to be filling and block sanding this wheel arch in preparation for paint. This is part 2 of a 3-part series. Part 1 was welding in the new wheel arch. Part 2 is this filling, and then part 3 will be spraying it and finishing the job. Right, let's get on with it. Welcome back to Patriot Repairs. Why? Here's where we left off in the previous video. I welded in the new wheel arch. We manufactured and welded it in. So now it's left us with a filling job to make it refined. I came in here with a grinding disc and ground a nice key, a nice etch for our filler to adhere to. So that's intentional. Got a lovely key there. I'll show you the defects on this. Right, so the defects we're looking at along this panel that we welded in. We're looking for flatness because it's a flat sheet, this wheel arch, this face. So what we're looking at is we've got gaps here. So you can see my finger under the rule there, look. You can see it. So there's a divot there, there's a pit. There's another one there. And there's another one here. So there's 3 pits. I'll mark them out with a marker now. And then we're going to fill with some coarse filler with the fiberglass in it. Right, so the products we're going to use to fill this wheel arch to get these, there's 4 pits there. Initially, we want this one. So you've got this, and this is structural adhesive, and basically it's got fiberglass strands within it. We'll put that on first to build up the divots, and then once we've sanded that semi-smooth, we get it close, we get it flat. We then do a skim coat with a fine body filler, and we'll sand that down, and that's the one that we get smooth for putting paint on. Right, we'll mix some of this up. I'll show you how to do that, and we'll get it on the body. Right, so this is what we've got. It's a structural filler. It's just got fiberglass strands within it. That's what you can expect to see. I've got an old scraper that I get out and mix on. And you can see there, you can see the fiberglass strands contained within it. That's what makes it structural. So it's got strips of fiberglass in there. Whereas the smooth filler, the finishing filler, is just filler only. There's no fiberglass contained within it. So we'll just get some out on the board. Not too much. And that's that. And then all we do with this is get the hardener that comes with it. And for this amount, look, if you see, it's like smaller than my fist. We just want a strip of hardener like that. So if you can see the sizes there to my hand, look, that's the sort of thing we're after. I won't mix this yet. I'll move the camera because it'll start going hard before I can get it onto the vehicle. Right, so we got our filler. We're going to mix the hardener in. We're going to fold it in like that. We're not going to stir it because we'll introduce air into it. So we're just going to fold it in on itself. And we're just mixing the hardener in until we've got no streaks. Right, so all mixed up. And if you can see there, I've circled, I've got low spot there, and there, and there, and there. So it's from the welding that we've done previously. That one's above a spot weld, that one's above a spot weld. So I think a spot weld to make it kink. So, and there's a dip there, so I'll just smear some in there. So we're using this filler for the big fill. And that's all we're doing. I'm going to use my scabby old one because this isn't... So all we're doing is applying it to the areas and we'll go that way, and we'll go that way, and this way. So we're mixing it, we're getting it to adhere into all the etch marks that we've left with the grinder. So we want a good key. And the same here, we'll go down, we'll go sideways, we'll go up, and again there. So we're just getting it to adhere into the keys that we left with the grinder. A bit on my tyre there, should have put something on my tyre. Making a mess. Very professional, as you can see. So we'll go down and along. So it is a divot up there, I noticed. So we'll get that. So we're going to end up doing a screed right along the top here, I would say. So we'll give it a screed across. Now remember, this is the fiberglass one. It's a bridging filler. It's for bridging gaps. That's its job. I'm going to end up doing one right along the lot there. So this doesn't have to be smooth because we're going to sand this down. This is literally to get a flat surface. You don't need to be too obsessive about this. But just remember, whatever you put on, you've got to sand down. So if you put too much on, it's more effort afterwards. And something I noticed is the line of the door, that arch is just up to the door line. So I'm just gonna build that up so that we can shape it to the door, the wheel arch. So the wheel arch is a couple of mil higher than the door. Right, I'm happy with that. This is only a first application. We can add more if we need to. So we'll just let that set now. It's quite cold today. So that's going to take quite a while. I'm in the UK and it's cold and damp. So that'll take a little while to cure, probably half hour, 45 minutes. Right, so this is set now. This is nice and firm. It'll have a very sticky film on the first piece of it. It'll clog up your first piece of sandpaper when you do it. Slightly sticky. So what we're doing, we're using a 60 grit or a 40, but just a coarse paper on this first one just to take it down. That's all we're doing. So we're blocking it. We've got a wooden block. And then we've got our piece of paper. And then all we're doing is sanding it. You can hear the coarseness, and this first one will clog up with the sticky from the filler. I forgot my dust mask. I'll put my dust mask on. Got my mask on, so now we'll carry on. Right away we're through to metal there, so that's a high spot. Yeah, you can see the paper's clogged pretty much right away there. This body line here, it flicks out. The wheel arch comes along and flicks out to the bumper. So I'll go with this by hand because the block needs to be curved. So we'll just go by hand. I'm just going to dress this piece to get a little bit of a contour for the door. So just after our first initial application of filler, the bridging filler. We'll get our straight edge and we'll see what we've achieved. Right, so this is our initial roughing down of it. We're just taking off. So if you can see there, we got high spots there. That's the material, the metal from underneath. Same here. All the way along, that's our high spots. And this didn't have any filler on it. So when I do this now, I've still got a slight one there, over here. So I've still got a, there, you can just see it. There, I've just got a divot there. And there's a couple here, just small ones there and there. You can see them, they're low spots. So you can see there, my sandpaper has been rubbing here and it hasn't been rubbing there. So therefore that's high there, high there. That's the low bit in between. So just a little bit of an application there. And the same there, that's on a rigid spot. That's lower because it hasn't been touched by the sandpaper. So same here. So we'll do another application of filler now. Okay, so before we apply any more filler, you've got to get your panel wipe or your thinners and you have to give it a wipe off, or else your filler is only going to be sticking to the dust. It's not going to be sticking to the filler below. Alright, so while that's evaporating off, I'll mix up the next coat of filler. And we have so the pink hardener now is mixed in. There's no streaks anymore. I can't see any hardener. So we're good to go, and it's just starting to cure now. It'll start to cure as soon as it's in. So we're just going to smear some here. It's less this time. Just along there. Didn't cover my tire again, did I? So we're just going along here, just to iron out those low spots. And there. I'm just going to put some under there again, just to bring this down. Right, so I'm just going to leave it at that. We'll let that cure. I'm just going to clean up my tools now with some thinners while I'm waiting for that to set. Right, so we've got our next skim on. We're just going to take that down. So we're just going to take this down a bit with our 40 grit again, our coarse sandpaper. And we're just going to take it down and see if we can iron this out flat. Okay, so I've got it pretty close to where I want it. We've still got the high spots there, but we've lost those low spots now. It's pretty flat. There's a slight here, but we'll get that with the finishing filler. So now we need to key. I just want to key up. I just want to scratch this up, this filler, as a key for the skim over with the fine filler. So I'm just gonna give it a key up. This is with a 40 grit. Okay, getting a bit dusty in here now. So I don't know if the camera will pick it up. There, you can see all those scratch marks. So all of those 40 grit scratch marks are going to be a good key for our smooth filler to go on. So it's just a low spot there, look. You could just see it, but I'm going to skim over that with the fine fillers. Right, so I'm going to mix up the fine filler now, not the bridger gap, not the fiberglass filler. So this is just fine fillers now. So we're just refining the job up as we're going along. We start off coarse, and then we iron out a few little pits, and then now we're ironing out a few more little pits. It's just a little process. Right, so I'm adequately mixed there. I've got the hardener mixed in. I'm now swapping to my filler knife, a bit of a nicer one to get on here. So we're just going to scrape this on. We're going over all of it this time. So we're scraping over the whole panel. So we do a crisscross here because we've not had filler on this one before. So we go down, across, up. You get the drill. So now we're just doing a fine skim. And we'll come out over this edge, onto the paint edge. So we'll get out over onto the paint edge now, because we want to iron that out. We want to smooth that off. We want to lose that join. So those 40 grit scratches is for this to key. It's for this to bond in. We'll put a bit on there, and then we can shape our round or like our beveled edge on there. We'll get that made out of filler. I'm not sure if you're in shot here. I'm not sure, so we're just smearing down here where we've been with the angle grinder. I'm just going to push it in the corner there with my finger. I'll show you it in a minute. It's probably out of shot now. I'm just going to, there's a curve in there. So I just want to continue that curve down. There. So I've just used the round of my finger just to give myself a scalloped edge in there. Right, same again. Come back in 15-20 minutes, half hour, how long it takes to set. And we'll sand it down again. That's the first application of the smooth filler there, and that's that contour that I've achieved just literally by rubbing my finger down there to get that shape. We'll sand it to the exact shape. So we'll just dress it down now. It's got that very slight sticky feel on the surface, so it's going to clog up the paper like the others. I'll start off with a coarse paper, and then we'll refine it down. We'll go to a finer grit. So initially on this smooth filler, just to take off all the rough bits, 40 grit again. So this is the one that's going to clog up because it's got the sticky surface. So it's clogged up, look. That first one gets clogged up. So now, new piece. So we're just uncovering the body line there. This edge, this line here. This will start crumbling away as it gets thinner. And there it goes. You see it crumbling away. So that's the body line there. Get rid of that. Just going to shut the door. Yes, so we've got that down now. The door sweeps around nice. There's still some little bits to do there. So I've just got this body line. This has got a curve on it, and I've got a sharp line there where my filler. So I'll just create the curve. Feels better. That feels nice. Well, I've got failing light at the moment. It's getting a bit later now. Early evening and the light's going. So I've just blocked this down, look. So I've just blocked that flat face down. Now, don't know if the camera's picking it up. Now I'm going to get this curve here, this round of this wheel arch. So we'll just do that by hand. This is very coarse, this is 40 grit, so it's taking it off very fast. And then in a minute, I'll swap to a finer grit. And now I'm going to use my finger, just the form of my finger, just to get in there. And we're just going to recreate this curve here out of filler. I think we got a nice form there, that's gone quite well. Went a little too easy. So now we want to get this and shape that corner. So, I'll just get the block. I don't know if you'll be able to see. And what I'll keep doing is I'll sand this line. This is the vertical line that'll line up with the door. I'll reposition the camera and show you. And we want this. We're reshaping this here. It actually looks quite nice there. It's a bit thick there. So we'll have an even gap down. It's slower there. So I'll just fetch a bit of that off. I'm just going to take this top bit off. You can see with this 40 grit, it takes it fast. It takes it away quickly. Okay. So just give that a little shape, a little round. A little radius there. Yeah, that's lovely. Really happy with that. So now it's got a radius here. I'll put that as a sharp edge there. I'll make that rounded to match up here. So we've just got some little bits here. There's a chunk there, there's a little pits there. There's some along this edge, it's quite hard to see. There's some little low spots in there. So we'll just put another fine skim of filler on now. This one will be very thin. This will be a very thin coat of filler on here now. A very fine screed. And I won't be using a 40 grit sandpaper anymore. We'll be using something a bit finer. This is just before the last coat of filler, look. So there is some defects there. There's the coarse scratches from my 40 grit. That ain't bad in there, that's all right. And you can just see the imperfections there, look. So you could just see that crevice there, and that's high. So there's probably a low spot there. So we're just a fine skim. And you can see it there, look. You can see all them imperfections. So we're just going probably for our last coat of filler now. Right, so it's all mixed up. I've got the light shining along here so I can see all my imperfections perfectly. So we're just on a fine screed now. This is the very thin one. And we're just trying to get those little grooves out. So we'll just let that cure now. I'm not sure if I'm going to come out today. My light's failing. I'm in the garage, but the lighting's not the best, and I'm hungry. It's a couple of days later now. I'm just managing to get round to coming back out here and playing with this. Now we've got maybe our final screed of fine filler on. So we're going to bring our sandpaper down. We're now going down to about 100. 120 grit, something like that, finer sandpaper. So I've just got standard sandpaper from a DIY place. We're going to block this down now. We're going to go a bit slower. When we get closer to when we think we're right, we're going to swap from this 100 grit. We're going to get down to around about a 240 grit. So we're getting finer. About a 240, and then we'll be able to get some primer on. Right. Let's get on with it. Right, so we're just going to knock it down with our 100 grit now. So we're refining and we're getting finer with the sandpaper. Well, I've just blocked this down to 100 grit. I've just blocked this down as well here, this face. Now we're getting these rounded pieces. So we'll go freehand, we'll go rogue on this, and we'll just get the curve. Remember, this is with 100. We're still going to go with a 240. So now we just want to get this radius in here. Just get your finger, wrap your finger in there. And this shape will just be the shape of your finger. Right, so we're looking a lot better now. If we go right in, we got 100 grit scratches now, not the deep 40 grit scratches. So we're now just going to brush it over with a 240 or a 240 grit probably. So this stuff's just a bit finer to get the scratches down even more. And you can feel it. You can just feel it's just that smoother, and there it's just that little bit rougher. I dropped you. Are you okay, everybody? There we go. I hope you're okay. Okay, so I've got this down to a 240 grit now. Just put some tape there. This is down to 240. I can see some low spots here. They're going to have to be filled in. But it does seem quite smooth and it does seem flat. To prove flatness, just get any black paint or any coloured paint that you want, a strong colour really. And we're just going to mist it over as a guide coat. So all we're going to do is just dust it over. Just like that. Nothing special. My nozzle's blocked. What's the chances of that? I'll get back to you when I've cleaned my nozzle out. Right, I'm back. Again, I'm doing a very professional production here. Right, so we just mist this over. Just a little coat. And the whole purpose of this now is we're going to get our block. We're going to let this dry and then we're going to block over. And when we block over, it's going to scrape off the black paint on the high spots and it's going to leave behind the paint on the low spots. So we can tell then whether we've got an uneven panel, whether we've got high spots and low spots. So let this dry off and then we'll block it and realise that the sanding I've done is completely rubbish. The black paint, the guide coat, is now dried off. So I'm now just going to sand down and we'll see the high spots and the low spots. So if the black paint gets left behind, it's a low spot. We ain't doing too bad really there so far. So you can see there at a low spot, so I just carry on sanding a bit deeper. And now that's got rid of it. The same there, look. You can see the black there. So I'll just carry on sanding a bit deeper. And you can see that streak there, look. Just that streak. That's a high spot there, there's a ridge, which is creating this low spot here. So by taking this away, look, I'll sand that ridge away until the black disappears. There we go, look. So now that's taken that high spot away there and it's level. So this area here looks a bit low. So we'll carry on sanding there. So we've got rid of that low now. The black's disappeared from there. So there we have it. We've got rid of all the black. That's highlighted. It's now flat. We'll come along here. It's a bit more difficult here. This panel comes along flat and it does curve outwards. It comes along flat and then it flicks out. So a bit more difficult here. We've lost all of our low points with the guide coat. This is a bad area here. I'm going to put some filler in there. You can see all the black of the spray. Put some more filler in there and then sand it again. I've got to do this area and just finish up there. I'm going to do that off camera because it gets a bit boring and it's a lot of time lapse. And then I'll get back to you when I've done it. I'll just give it a wipe down with some panel wipe, and there, like, it really highlights those low spots. Low spots. I've just wiped it down with some panel wipe, some degreaser, and there you can see that paint. It really does highlight that whole area is dipped there. You can feel it with your finger. And that black paint is an indicator. It's a guide coat. It guides you to where the low spots are. And as you can see, the rest is actually fine. There's no black paint in there anywhere. So these areas could cause concern when I put primer on. It may highlight them, but we'll just sand it down. We'll just have a play as it goes along. You can see there the grinder marks from where I went along with the grinder, and they're all filled out and leveled. Right, I'll stop yapping and we'll smack some filler in there. Just thought I'd show you there's a very fine smear of filler there where that low spot was. And I've decided just to lightly skim that there. I may just lightly dust over that. Right, I've just finished sanding that down. It feels lovely, feels really nice. And up here, there's no transition between that high spot and there. I think we'll get away with that high spot. It feels nice. The next task is to sand up this wheel arch. It's how far we want to go really. So we've got a natural body line, a natural curve in there. So for painting purposes, I'm now going to key this up to a 300, about a 300, 350 grit, just to key it for the primer to adhere to. It's already keyed there, but I'm just going to go into this recess. So just keying up with a 320, up into this corner here, just up into that recess. Just get rid of the orange peel and scuff it up. Very nice indeed. That's a 320 grit. So what we're setting out to achieve here is when I spray the primer onto this bare metal and the bare filler, we're spraying the primer on, it's going to go up over this panel. So we just want an adhesion for the primer to a key for it to stick into. So that's done up to there. Our primer will probably dust and feather out over here. And then I'll just key up in there as well, in the door reveal. It's not so important in there because people don't see it. They're looking down the car, they'll see this. So I'll just key that up in preparation for the primer to go on. That's what it looks like with a 320 grit all over it. I've dulled this area here for the primer to stick to, or any overspray from the primer. And I've went over the filler with a 320 as well in there. And I've keyed up all the lacquer, all the paint down here. So that's all keyed now with a 320 and it's been degreased. So now the next job is to mask it up. Right, so when we're masking here, we just drape the masking paper down, newspapers, magazines, anything. And then we peel it back. We peel it back like that. And you just let it hang like this. And that's going to give you a soft edge. So I'll just tape it up here. So now that paper comes down and it just rolls under it. It's not a harsh line from tape. So that's how we achieve a soft edge on the paint. So we'll do that all along and I'll mask up in here and then we'll dust on some primer. Right, so our first thing, spray on the grey primer. So we're just using the primer to cover the bare metal and the filler. We start spraying underneath on the bad edges, get up under there, and then we dust around the top. So we just go underneath here. Might get my fat head in the way. There we go, we're just dusting the paint on. This is only a first coat. Right, I'm just going to stop there. Just going to let that tack off. It's a very thin coat. I think you'll be able to see it. It's slightly opaque. You can see the filler outlines below. So we'll just let that go for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then we'll come back and reapply the second coat. Right, so we'll apply the second coat now. We'll up underneath first and then dusting around. There we go, nice. So now we'll just dust them in here. I'm a bit too fat to get in here. So we're just trying to cover the filler and the edge of the filler and the bare metal. Looks like we've got a bit of fluff in there, just a little bit of, yeah, it's like a little bit of fabric or something, a little bit of fluff. So just another light coat there. When that's gone off for about 15 minutes, I'm just going to get some tweezers and just lightly pick out that hair, that little bit of fluff. Right, I'll see you again in 15 minutes. Right, don't tell the wife I've got her tweezers. So I'm just going to pick out there we go, I got it. So I'm not going to try and smooth that with my finger or nothing. I'm just going to leave it. We can sand that down in a minute. So I'm losing the light now. The footage is getting a bit porous, a bit shady here and the light over there. So I'll just spray up again. So I'm now going for the third coat, and this is a wet coat. So I can just see a gloss along it. So it's now properly getting thick and there's a nice glossy sheen to the paint. Right, I'm going to stop because I've got a tendency to go too far and then I'll get runs. Right, I'm going to leave this now. I'll come back to it tomorrow when we've got good lighting. Right, it's the next day. This is dried. Dried quite nicely. Let's peel off the masking tape. And let's see what we've achieved, shall we? Right, so there we have it. We hardline, they got hardline there, and there. Look at this overspray. Look at that. Lots of overspray over here. But generally, we'll have a look close up, and I'll show you the end result. So this is what we've ended up with. Don't look too bad. There's just a little pit there. Just a very small one. But generally, we've achieved. It's nice and smooth. I thought I'd show you how to get rid of the overspray. This is just a bit of kitchen roll. And it's got some cellulose thinners in it. So you just get your cellulose thinners and rub it on that overspray and it's gone. Look. Some up there. So we can get rid of all that while this paint's soft. We finished the sanding and the filling on this wheel arch repair. It's been very successful. We've put it into primer as well. We've put it into undercoat. The next video will be spraying base coat and lacquer and finishing the job. And that's with tin cans. So it's good for the domestic home mechanic. Something to remember, if you've not done body filling before, you can apply as many coats as you want until you get it right. There's no rush. There's no set amount of coats. You can sand it down if you're not happy. You can reapply filler. But the important thing to remember is you have to degrease or wipe it down with panel wipe or thinners between filler applications, or else all you're doing is putting filler onto dust. It's not going to stick, it's not going to adhere, so you have to wipe it down between coats. But just take your time, sand it. If you're not happy with it, reapply it. So that's about it for this video. If you found it useful and you found it informative, could you please like, subscribe and share, and I'll see you next time.